I'm Jenna Miscavige. I was born and raised in Scientology. I left when I was 21 years old and wrote a book about it. My uncle, David Miscavige, is the leader of Scientology, and this is my YouTube channel. Hi guys, so today is going to be a little bit lighthearted. I thought we could talk about some things that bring me comfort and when I'm feeling a little, and that I could tell you my pancake recipe and have just a little bit of Scientology talk in there. All right, so this is my favorite pancake recipe. I don't necessarily like chewy pancakes. I like when they're kind of like spongy but are like a tiny bit crisp, and there's a certain flavor in them. I can't explain what it is, but it is delicious. So we have milk, eggs, butter, baking powder, salt, a tiny bit of sugar, and yes. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is put 3 tablespoons of butter on this pan. This is actually a crepe pan, and I'm just going to melt it. And it's a perfect way of melting the butter, but also kind of greasing the pan a little bit. And I don't want the butter to get too hot because I want it to cool down and not make anything else in the recipe too hot. All right, and then we have 1.5 cups of flour. We have a teaspoon of salt, a tablespoon of white sugar, and I believe it is 3.5 teaspoons of baking powder. All right, and then I'm just gonna mix these up a little bit and make a little well in the center where I will put 1.5 cups milk. One and a half, and you can add a little bit more milk or even water later, just if the batter starts to get too thick. All right, and then we will add 1 egg to this. Whoop. All right, now I'm going to add the melted butter in here. And I just get as much out of this pan as I can. And then the rest that's on the pan will just be perfect for having the pan be greased so the pancakes don't stick to it. And a little bit preheated. All right. Now I'm just gonna whisk everything together. Break up that egg. All right, I try to get most of the lumps out of it, but can only do so much. Here we go. I don't know if you can see it without me pouring it out all over the counter. All right, so the pan is preheated to low, so I'm just gonna use this spatula to scoop batches into there and cook up these babies. All right, I changed the angle of the camera just a little bit so that you could see me while I'm doing this. And I got this cute plate to put them all on. I made this. This is my kitty cat, Dasher. He died a couple years ago, but he was the best cat in the whole world. And he would always sit under the orange tree, so I made this platter with all these little oranges on it with him. And then I always have butter ready because the first thing I do when a pancake comes off is I put butter right onto it because that is super yummy delicious. And it's the secret to good pancakes. Okay, so I thought it would be fun to talk about some of my favorite movies because over the years, or even some of my favorite books too. And I think it would be super fun to hear what your guys's are in the comments. Because over the years, like obviously movies are comforting to everyone, but I just have a few favorites, and it's that time of year for coziness and movies are healing, and I'm just in one of those seasons where I feel like I need to take care of myself and nurture myself and do all the warm fuzzy things. And so I think it might be time for me to watch all my favorites. And I wanted to share what they are with you in case you hadn't heard of them. So my #1 favorite movie, and I'm happy because there's no way to choose a favorite color or a favorite musician or whatever, but for sure this is my favorite movie. And it's called Dan in Real Life. And it has Steve Carell. And it has to be from maybe like 2008 or 2007. And I get really excited about sharing it because I feel like hardly anybody knows about it. And it's such a good movie. It's so cute, and I don't know why it wasn't a big deal, but I love it so much. He is a journalist whose wife dies, but she's already passed away in the beginning of the movie, so it's not like traumatizing to go through that with him. And he goes to a cabin with the rest of his family and his 3 young girls, and it's super adorable and hilarious and sweet and just so comforting for some reason. Okay, so that is the first pancake done. All right, my second favorite movie, actually I shouldn't really act like these are in any actual order because they're not. Only Dan in Real Life is for sure my favorite movie. So my next favorite movie is called Stranger Than Fiction. It's also older. I don't know what year it's from, but it has Will Ferrell. It has Maggie Gyllenhaal, and it has Emma Thompson. And I feel like Emma Thompson's in a few of my favorites. But it's such a cute movie. Will Ferrell is an IRS agent, and Maggie Gyllenhaal has a bakery. And it was one of the first movies that I saw that made me want to have my own bakery. That was an early dream of mine when I left Scientology, before I realized that you have to get up at like 1 a.m. every day and bake stuff if you want to have a bakery. So now I just bake for fun. But she has a bakery and she's super cool in it, and it's just like a really unique concept. Oh yeah, and Dustin Hoffman is in it too. Just briefly, he plays this random weird character, but I love it. And it's super fun and quirky, and like she kind of uses her, like she talks about Maggie Gyllenhaal, her character talks about like when she was in college, there would be people like, you know, staying up all night planning something for a cause, and her contribution to it was that she would feed them all. And I just really like that concept because that's kind of how I feel, you know, like I'm not always out there on the front lines or like have the mind or energy to do all that, but I can nurture people who maybe want to do that. So anyways, it's just really sweet and lovely and adorable, and I think you guys might like it. Oops, I forgot to put butter right onto this. That's okay. This butter will melt more once I put the other pancake on top of it. All right, so number 3 is a movie that is called About Time, and it is just one of the best movies ever. I honestly don't see how there could be a better movie, even though the other ones are really good. But it is, God, I don't remember the name of the actor who plays the main guy, but he has red hair, and he's in one of the Harry Potter movies, and he's in the Peter Rabbit movie. Obviously I have kids, so that's why I know who's in those movies. But he's so great, and it has Rachel McAdams, and it has, I don't know if his name is Bill Nye or Billy Nye, but he's this British dude. He's older. He's like kind of skinny. He's like so good and amazing in it. And this movie is just, oh, and Margot Robbie is in it briefly as well. And I'm not even going to say what it's about because it's such a nice surprise what it's about. Like it's the last thing you would expect. And it's honestly one of the best movies. And I remember when I first watched it with my son, he loved it. And just last week, my daughter was watching it, and I was like, oh my God, I love this movie. And she was like, yeah, Archie showed it to me. And she said, and now it's my favorite movie. And I was like,
It was just so cute that we like had the same taste and that she made it her favorite movie all on her own without me even saying, without her even knowing that it was mine. Because right now, like, she's at the age, well, she's getting, it's a little bit different now, but for a while she was at the age where if it was like, if something was my favorite, then it definitely was not going to be her favorite. But now she recently has acknowledged that I have good taste. And so, yeah, that was awesome. Okay, number 4. Honestly, this could also be number 1. And I think it's a lot of people's favorite movie because it's just so good. But it's Love Actually. It is, I mean, you guys probably know, it's a British movie and it has so many people. It has Emma Thompson, it has Liam Neeson, it has, gosh, what's that dude's name? Oh, gosh, I can't remember. But Laura Linney is in it briefly. I'll remember some other people, but it is just so good. It is like all of these different stories that sort of come together in the end. Oh yeah, Keira Knightley is in it. And it's just a bunch of random people that, it's just their little stories, and it's at Christmas time. And it's just so like funny and heartwarming. And, yeah, I just love it. It's so good. Okay. By the way, I keep putting the pan over there when it gets too smoky. Who knows if that's what I'm supposed to do, but I'm making some delicious pancakes with it, and that's all that matters. Okay, so number 5 is a movie called The Departed. I'm sure you guys have all seen it, and it's totally out of line with those other movies I just shared with you, but it is so good. It is such a good movie. It is so like full of characters. It really makes you feel. It is fun and exciting and also like suspenseful. And also, honestly, I think that it's like hilarious. I think it's so funny. I do have a weird sense of humor, but I just think that that movie is really funny. But it has, obviously it has Leonardo DiCaprio, Matt Damon, Martin Sheen. I think like Mark Wahlberg is in it, and Alec Baldwin. And, oh yeah, Jack Nicholson. And it's just really, really good. I love it. I hope you guys are taking note. You guys, we got to do a marathon. Okay, those are my top movies. And then I thought it would be fun for us to talk about favorite books. But the truth is that I pretty much, I mean, it's so, I've read many books and I love so many books. But the truth is that in this world, even though I'm 40 years old, there's no book that has ever or will ever come close to Harry Potter for me. And I feel like people who don't know, it's because they've tried to watch the movies and it just is nothing near the same whatsoever. The books are so, well, it's almost like the movies have the same-ish story, but they are nothing to the books. Like if I had just seen the movies, I would be like, meh, I don't think I would be into it. But the books are so good. They're so full of charm and character and coziness and this whole magical world. But the thing that I love the most about the books, by far, and again, people think I'm crazy when I say this, is that I think the books are hilarious. Like this, like sort of British humor that I can't really explain what it is. But it's my favorite kind of humor. Like it is so funny to me. it makes me laugh because I don't think jokes are funny. I think human things are funny. And I think that people thinking that other people are crazy, I think that that's funny. Anyways, that probably, don't let that like turn you off of it. They're just so charming and magical, and I have good associations with it, but also they could be also be considered bad associations. But basically, there was a period of my life when I was 16 years old, and I was in the Sea Org, which is Scientology's most dedicated group, where you sign a billion-year contract and you work 7 days a week, 40 hours a week. And I was 16, and I was in Clearwater, and my family wasn't there. Like, my parents lived in California, 3,000 miles away. And I had been there since I was 12, but at this point I was 16. And one day I was taken out of my work, and I began to be interrogated by the senior most official on the base. Her name was Ann Rathbun, and she was a big ol' bee. And so interrogated on the e-meter, where I was started to be asked all sorts of questions about my parents and had I done anything bad? Did I need to confess anything? Was I hiding anything? And as it turns out, it was because my parents had left the Sea Org and Scientology, and they wanted to send me with them, but I didn't know. I didn't know why I was being taken out of my everyday affairs. And so basically, I was taken off of my job, and I was made to clean bathrooms all day. There's this one building in Clearwater called the West Coast Building, and I would go from floor to floor and clean each bathroom. And the point wasn't even for the bathroom to be clean, so I just literally scrubbed between every tile with a toothbrush. And basically there was this gal who was responsible for making sure that the members of my group were being ethical, and she was supposed to watch me to make sure I didn't try to escape and to make sure I was working. And basically when I wasn't doing the confessional, this is what I was doing. And this woman, well, she was another kid, honestly. She was older than me though, so I don't know, maybe she was like 17 or 18. But basically, as I sat there and worked, I had never read Harry Potter. It was just coming out. Like, I always saw people on the buses reading it, but I hadn't read any of it yet. And she would sit there and tell me the story of Harry Potter from memory as I cleaned the bathroom. And it was just, basically it was the thing that sort of kept me going, that distracted me from how crappy this was. Because in addition to having to be in the bathroom, I was also moved to another dorm where I was away from my friend, or my friends in my dorm. Someone was sitting outside my door all night to make sure I didn't escape. The person who was in my room was watching me all night. And then at first I was allowed to go to the crew dining to eat still, but basically because there was a boy who I was like sort of in love with, we were in love with each other, and I saw him one day when I went to eat, and then it came up in my confessional. I was no longer allowed to go eat at the crew berthing, which meant I really wasn't allowed to see anybody. I would just be in the West Coast building all day, in the bathroom or in the confessional room. And basically because she had let me speak to him for 5 seconds, and she was someone who had known him since he was a little kid and she was a little kid. Basically, since she let me speak to him for 5 seconds, she basically was no longer allowed to watch me. And so, unfortunately, that was like after a couple weeks, I wasn't allowed to hear that story anymore, which is a bummer. And by the way, that was the last time I ever saw that guy or spoke to him in any way. And so for the next month or so, I was watched by somebody else. And really, I ate in a separate room unless on some days, because my uncle was in town, I would have to eat inside of the bathroom because it was considered that I would be upsetting him too much if he had to see me. And so I would actually eat inside the bathroom and then get my confessionals the rest of the time. But another aspect of this is that shortly after my confessional was done, I was moved to LA, and I didn't wind up leaving with my parents because I didn't actually want to, and I wound up staying. But basically, I was in a room, a dorm, all by myself in LA, and I ate with the highest executive on the base in LA. And then I would go into another room where I would have to study the materials where Scientology basically taught you about disconnection, and they basically taught you about what makes someone a suppressive person and what doesn't. The goal was to sort of teach me that my parents were suppressive people now and that I needed to disconnect from them, which was really unnecessary because I had no choice to be in communication with them. All my letters were being stopped and were being sent through this high official on the base, and I never saw any of them. My friends wrote to me for months and I never got them. And so the room that I would study in had a camera on me the whole time, and I was alone in that room all day. When I would sleep at night, I was alone in a room, and then I would eat meals with this one high official, the highest official on the base. And sort of the only solace that I had was that when we were driving from the berthing to the place where I was studying and where she worked, they would play the Harry Potter audiobooks. And it just, I don't know, it was just kind of this escape for me, this whole other world that was sort of like, I don't know, like complicated and had like life lessons, and there were friends. And so the other thing was that I had actually known a lot of people in LA from my time in Clearwater. And they would see me and they would run up to me and they'd be like, "Hi, Jenna." And then the high official would be like, "No, you cannot talk to her. Get out of here." So everybody who would run up to me and try to talk to me, they would be sent away. So I didn't have any friends. I couldn't write to my friends. I couldn't call my friends. I couldn't even talk to the people who came up to me. In order to go to the bathroom, I had to go out of this room and knock on the high official's door, and then she would send me with someone to go to the bathroom because there was card readers everywhere in order to get into different spaces. And this went on for 4 months, actually longer than 4 months, because sort of the part where this aspect comes to a conclusion and where it's relevant in this story is that it went on from September until mid-January. And basically at Christmas, I did get a present from the second highest official in all of Scientology, who was responsible for overseeing my program. And it was a Harry Potter book. And it was the first Harry Potter book. And I would basically stay up all night and read it. And it was the first time I was actually reading it, because initially I was being told the story. And then I was listening to it. And then this was the first time that I could actually read the story. And in order to do studying in Scientology or do an interrogation or a confessional, you're supposed to get enough sleep. And I would just stay up all night reading this book, and I would just lie and say that I got enough sleep, just because that was the world that I would escape to. And I would look forward to going home and listening to it, and reading it every single night. So I think that that's why I love Harry Potter so much. And to be honest, even if all that wasn't involved, I think I would still love Harry Potter because it's that good. It's just a beautiful story. There's so many characters. There's so many life lessons. It is just like one of the most beautiful, untouched perfect things in the world. And if you haven't read it or listened to it, I really, really, really think that you would love it. And it's so cozy. I think that might actually be the perfect thing for me to do while I'm driving around listening to the audiobooks in the car. I was so happy when my kids got into Harry Potter. When I would put my son to bed at night, at first I would read him the books, but then eventually we just sat and listened to the audiobooks together, and those are just some of the most amazing times that I had with him. And it just makes me so happy when he has the same humor and he loves the same things and he's excited to go to Harry Potter World. So it was just so nice to see that he had the same sense of humor as me, and it was just like a full circle moment. All right, let's try these pancakes. There's just one for me. The rest are for my kids. I only use real maple syrup. I'm a snob. Regular syrup is disgusting. By the way, here's all the pancakes. I'm not the best pancake cook, but they're the yummiest, I'm convinced. Delicious. All right, guys. Well, that's all I've got for today. I hope you check out those movies. Tell me your top 5 favorite movies and books in the comments. I would love to check them out. I would love to have some new amazing things to add to my list. And I hope you have a cozy, comfy rest of your weekend. And don't forget to check out Sins of Scientology on YouTube. And if you haven't read my book already, you can find it on Amazon. It's called Beyond Belief: My Secret Life Inside Scientology and My Harrowing Escape. All right, guys. Bye. See you soon.